Before I could even move, the carriage rattled down the last 15 feet and looped out beyond the edge of the bank into the river. It made a huge splash, gurgled for a few seconds, and sank below the surface faster than I could even think it all in. "No!" she screamed again. "No! My baby! My baby! She was asleep on the seat. My little girl is still inside." Later on that same day, I learned that the lady's husband, with the help of some other guys, had loaded the baggage area with two big anvils, wrapped in wooden boxes, which he was sending over to the livery stable. Judd Mason had gone to the building behind his stables to get some help unloading them because they were too heavy for one person. That's almost for sure why the carriage itself sank so quickly. But I didn't know that then. In truth, I don't think I knew anything at all at that moment. My mind was completely blank except for one terrible thought. I had to do something or that baby would drown. I couldn't let that happen, so I threw off my shoes and jumped in the water. I don't know how many seconds it took me to get down to the bottom. I could see the outline of the carriage, but even though the water should have been clear that far below the surface, the carriage itself had stirred up a lot of mud when it landed. Yet, in spite of all that, I saw in a flash that I could never open it up from either side. Somehow the carriage had rolled another 3 or 4 feet after it hit the bottom, straight into a lockup between two huge stones that blocked both of the doors. Oh, dear God, please help me! Please help me! You know I can't do this alone. At that exact moment, my eyes fell on a big stone about the size of a softball lying on the riverbed just 5 or 6 feet away. To be honest, I'm not sure how I saw it because the water wasn't exactly clear at that point either. But when I pulled it out of the mud, I had a smooth part sticking out on one side, just big enough for me to grab onto, almost like a handle that someone had put there on purpose. I knew instantly what I had to do. The carriage had a small back window, and I remember hoping with all my heart that the opening would be big enough for me to get through if I could somehow get the glass out of the way. And I had to do it fast once I started because I also knew that if the inside wasn't already full of water, it would fill up mighty fast once I opened up a brand new hole. I held the rock with one hand, fumbled my way back to the carriage, and wrapped both hands around the smooth part of the rock as tight as I could. Wham! I smashed the rock against the glass, but nothing happened. Wham! 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 3 times more, and then suddenly, on the fourth or fifth smack, I saw a small crack start to spread across the glass. Wham! 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 Now I had the huge piece knocked out and the water really began pouring past me into the carriage. For the next few seconds all I could do was feel with my hands and pound with my rock until I couldn't find any more sharp, pointed edges sticking out. Even so, I felt the leftover glass scraping my back as I forced my way in, grabbing at the inside wall above my head and pulling with my arms until I got my shoulders through. But where was the baby? The water was still coming in so fast I couldn't see a thing. Suddenly, in the muck and the murk, I saw something move. I don't know how I ever got over to it. At that point, I think I was pushing myself with my feet against the inside wall, but I can't be sure. And besides, it really doesn't matter because what I'd seen was definitely a very small person. I knew that instantly when my hands touched her. She was floating inside a blanket, still on the surface of the water and maybe an inch or so below the roof of the carriage. But I knew the blanket would get waterlogged and help drag her down at any second. I don't have any idea how much time it took me to fumble my way back to the broken window. I had to hold the baby outside the carriage while I worked my way back out, and once or twice I thought I was stuck for sure. But somehow I made it, and then I was paddling as hard as I could with one hand, holding the baby tight against my body, with the other fighting to get back to the surface. When my head cleared the water, I saw Judd Mason running down the slope toward the woman on the edge who was still standing there screaming. The minute he saw me, he jumped in, and a few seconds later he was right there beside me. Together, we thrashed our way downriver to where the bank was only a foot or so above the water. He hauled himself out first, then took the baby in one hand and pulled me out with the other. The baby's mother was there, beside me and Judd, by the time I got back on land.